Hi, and a very warm welcome to Wellbeing, Mission Control. I'm Greg Parry. I'm a wellbeing specialist, and I'm really glad you could join me. And one of the sensitive subjects that I'm often involved in when working with people is the question of how do you really recover from a broken heart? I know we've all experienced it, and it's something that usually happens during those sensitive years of adolescence where we fall madly in love and our heart gets crushed and powdered into dust in a relationship that didn't work out. Now, the problem with that is that no matter what age this event occurs, and it's pretty much guaranteed to happen at some point in life, it can leave us emotionally scarred. Now, let's not get too dramatic, because I'm interested in the way that this kind of pain that we all experience, this emotional suffering, can change our behavior, because it makes us less open, less available to any kind of repetition of real emotional intimacy. And we tend to build barriers. We make these silent declarations that we will never put ourselves in a position where we could experience that kind of suffering again. No way, no how, no sir. And we build defenses. We seal off our hearts to make sure nobody can trespass. We stop taking the risk, and it makes perfect sense. We are deeply averse to pain and suffering. But the problem, as you've probably guessed, is that this tends to cut us off from those rich, powerful experiences that are the product of a deep, loving connection with another human being. And I could think of lots of people who've actually got married, got involved in very serious partnerships, whilst experiencing this kind of emotional isolation, and then they wonder why there is a sense of dissatisfaction. This is a growing phenomenon in the world. The fact that we can be living with somebody, sharing our lives, and yet feel somehow misunderstood, dissatisfied, separate. And a lot of it's because we just don't open our hearts. Well, every couple, every situation is different. So we've got to avoid the temptation of just throwing platitudes at a complex situation. But there are some general principles that we can adopt. And one of the things is to really learn to be comfortable with yourself. Because if, for whatever reason, you're on your own and it feels comfortable, you remove that sense of, may I call it, desperation, that sense that if there isn't somebody in my life and my life isn't complete. That's part of our cultural conditioning. And I'm a huge fan of close, supportive relationships. But if you happen to be on your own and you're comfortable, that's a very, very good starting place. Being comfortable with yourself, being accepting of yourself makes it so much easier to accept others. And once you lay aside the fear of being closely connected to people, that strange protective instinct to keep your heart closed and sealed, when you open up, you take away a lot of the fear and anxiety. And that just makes you more approachable. You become a little bit less concerned about what the other person's thinking because you want to express yourself. You don't necessarily just want to impress them. You don't want their approval necessarily. You just want to communicate. You want to listen, to be heard, to listen and understand, and see if there's a common basis for taking the relationship further. There is so much less pressure inside that particular dynamic that it's got to be a fantastic formula for starting any new relationship. And if, for whatever reason, the other party doesn't reciprocate and show the same interest in you that you show in them, it's okay. You're comfortable with who you are. You don't need to beg for approval. And perhaps more importantly, you don't need to pretend. You can be who you are. With all of our faults and problems, with all of our histories and backgrounds, you can be yourself. And that just makes it much easier to be open and approachable, and you're just less dependent on scoring a great result in terms of approval and acceptance. Sometimes we don't get acceptance or approval because you feel comfortable with who you are, even though we are all a work in progress. We've all got so much work to be done. But when we start with this position of self-acceptance, there's a lot less resistance to the process of self-development. And the reason I'm motivated to do this is because I'm deeply fortunate to talk to all kinds of people and encouraging you to be more open, to be able to perhaps take the risk of allowing love to enter into your life without any costs attached, without running a profit and loss account in your personal relationships. Just being open, being willing to love and to be loved. It makes life so much more profound, so much more powerful experience, so much more satisfying. And that's why I'd like you to just consider where you perhaps have sealed yourself off from the world and where you might be missing out on some great opportunities just for better communication. What do you think? Now, I have to admit, when I've talked about this in public, you get a very, very mixed reaction. People will sometimes feel very uncomfortable because we're talking about perhaps dredging up difficulties and problems from the past. But as I said, every person is unique in this respect, and I'm only talking in general principles. How you think and feel is extremely important. We shouldn't feel we have to conform to some general average standard. It doesn't really represent people at all. Now, I'm really glad you could join me today. I hope you found this useful. I will be back with you soon, and in the meantime, allow me to wish you a wonderful day.